Maya Rodriguez felt her stomach turn as the transport shuttle shook one last time before landing. Through the small window, she could see the massive space station that would be her home for the next 2 years. The Galactic Defense Academy was huge, bigger than anything she had ever seen. Its metal walls stretched out in all directions, covered with lights that blinked like stars. She grabbed her small bag and stood up with the other new cadets. Most of them were not human. There were tall, thin aliens with skin that looked like crystal. There were big, scary ones that looked like lizards with teeth. There were others that seemed to glow with a soft blue light. Maya was one of only 3 humans on this shuttle. The doors opened with a loud hiss. Maya stepped out onto the landing deck and immediately felt eyes watching her. Hundreds of alien cadets were walking around and many of them stopped to stare at her. She heard whispers and saw them pointing at her with claws, tentacles, and other strange body parts. A group of the crystal-skinned aliens walked past her. One of them, taller than the others, looked down at Maya and said something in his own language. It sounded like music, but Maya knew it was not nice music. She had studied many alien languages before coming here, and she understood what he said. Look, another weak human. Why do they even let these soft creatures come here? The tall aliens, name tag said Krixtal. He had 4 arms and his crystal skin caught the light from the ceiling. When he smiled, his teeth looked like sharp glass. His friends laughed at what he said, and they all looked at Maya like she was some kind of joke. Maya kept walking and tried not to show that their words hurt her. She had expected this. Everyone back on Earth had warned her that aliens would not respect humans. They thought humans were weak, stupid, and had no business trying to join the galactic military. Near the main doors, a group of the lizard-like aliens were doing some kind of exercise. They were lifting heavy metal bars that would be impossible for most humans to even move. The biggest one had red scales and muscles that looked like rocks. His name tag said Vectar. When he saw Maya walking by, he dropped his weights with a loud crash that made everyone look. "Hey, look at this," Vectar called out in rough galactic common language. "They sent us a tiny human. She looks like she would break if I breathed on her too hard." He laughed, showing rows of sharp teeth. "What does Earth think we are running here? A daycare center for baby aliens?" His friends all started laughing too. One of them picked up a weight that Maya could probably never lift and tossed it from hand to hand like it was a toy. "Maybe she is lost," another one said. "The shopping mall is on level 7, little human." Maya felt her face get hot, but she kept walking. She knew getting angry would only make things worse. Her father had taught her that bullies wanted to see you react. If you did not give them what they wanted, they would usually get bored and find someone else to pick on. But these were not normal bullies. These were alien military cadets who truly believed humans did not belong here. Maya found the sign that pointed to the human living area. It was much smaller than the signs for other species. The arrow pointed down a narrow hallway that looked like it was added to the station as an afterthought. She walked down the hall, passing doors marked for other alien species. The Zephyrian section was huge and had crystal decorations. The Korthak section had metal spikes and looked like a fortress. The Andromedian section glowed with soft blue light. The human section was just a plain metal hallway with simple doors. Maya found her room number and pressed her hand on the scanner. The door opened to show a small room with 2 beds, 2 desks, and a tiny bathroom. Her roommate was already there, sitting on one of the beds and looking sad. "Hi," the girl said without much energy. "I'm Lisa Carter, from New Texas Colony." She was about Maya's age, with short brown hair and tired eyes. "Let me guess, they already started making fun of you?" Maya sat down on the other bed. "Yeah, the crystal ones called me weak, and the big lizard ones acted like I was a lost child." Lisa nodded. "Same thing happened to me yesterday. It has been like this since I got here. They act like we are some kind of disease that got on their ship by mistake." She pointed toward the wall. "You can hear them through the wall sometimes. They talk about the human problem like we are some kind of pest that needs to be removed." Maya started unpacking her few belongings. She had not brought much because she knew she would have to carry everything herself. She pulled out a small picture of her family and set it on her desk. Her father was wearing his old military uniform, and her mother was in her NASA jumpsuit. They both looked proud and strong. "My dad was a Marine," Maya said, looking at the picture. "He fought in the colony wars. My mom helped design the first faster-than-light engines that let humans travel to other star systems." Lisa looked at the picture. "That's cool. My parents run a farm on one of the outer colonies. They grow food for the whole system." She was quiet for a moment. "They saved money for 10 years to send me here. I can't go back and tell them I failed because some aliens think humans are stupid." Maya put her clothes in the small closet. "We're not going to fail. They think we're weak because they don't understand what makes humans strong." "What do you mean?" Lisa asked. Maya thought about her father's stories from the war. He had told her about battles where human soldiers had won against impossible odds, not because they were stronger or had better weapons, but because they never gave up and they could think of new ways to solve problems when the old ways did not work. "Humans are good at adapting," Maya said. "We can survive in places that would kill other species. We can eat almost anything. We can live in hot places, cold places, dry places, wet places. When other species find problems, they try to use the same solutions their people have always used. When humans find problems, we make up new solutions." Lisa smiled for the first time since Maya had arrived. "You really think we can compete with them? I mean, look at those crystal aliens. They can connect their minds directly to computers, and those lizard guys are so strong they could probably break our bones just by shaking our hands." Maya looked out the small window in their room. She could see other cadets walking around in the common areas. They moved in groups, each species, staying with their own kind. The humans were nowhere to be seen. "Yeah, they have advantages," Maya said. "But advantages can also be weaknesses. If you are too used to being strong, you might not learn how to be smart. If you are too used to being smart, you might not learn how to be tough." A loud voice came over the room's communication system. It was speaking in Galactic Common, the language all the different species used to talk to each other. "All new cadets report to main assembly hall in 1 hour for orientation and first assignments. Wear your issued uniforms and bring your identification cards." Maya and Lisa looked at each other. This was it. Their real test was about to begin. "Ready to show them what humans can do?" Maya asked. Lisa stood up and straightened her uniform. "Let's go prove them wrong." They left their room and walked down the narrow human hallway. Maya could hear voices coming from the other sections. The aliens sounded confident and excited. They were talking about how easy the training would be, and how quickly they would rise to the top of their classes. Maya smiled to herself. Let them think this would be easy. Humans had learned long ago that the best way to win was to let your enemies underestimate you. While they were busy being confident, she would be working twice as hard as anyone else. The assembly hall was enormous, with seats for thousands of cadets. Maya and Lisa found the small section marked for humans. There were only 12 human cadets in total, lost in a sea of hundreds of aliens. As they sat down, Maya heard more whispers and saw more pointing. The aliens were still talking about the humans like they were some kind of curiosity. Maya looked around at all the different species. Each one thought they were better than humans. Each one was about to learn how wrong they were. The orientation was about to begin, and Maya Rodriguez was ready to start proving that humans belonged among the stars. The first week at the academy was harder than Maya had expected. Every morning started at 5 in the morning with physical training. The alien cadets made it look easy. The Korthak lizard aliens could run for hours without getting tired. The Zephyrian crystal aliens moved like dancers, never missing a step. The blue glowing Andromedians seemed to know exactly where to go without even looking. Maya struggled to keep up. Her human legs were shorter than most of the aliens, and her lungs burned after just a few minutes of running. She could hear some of the aliens laughing behind her as she fell further back in the group. "Look at the human trying to run," one of them said loud enough for everyone to hear. Maybe she should walk instead. Lisa was having the same problems. By the end of the first week, both human girls were sore, tired, and starting to wonder if they had made a terrible mistake coming here. The worst part was not the physical training. It was the classroom tests. The academy wanted to see what each cadet could do, so they gave everyone different kinds of tests to measure their abilities. The weapon training was first. All the cadets stood in a long line in the shooting range, holding energy rifles that were much more advanced than anything humans had ever used. The targets were small metal circles that moved around in the air. Krixtal stepped up to the firing line first. His crystal skin began to glow, and he held the energy rifle like it was part of his own body. When he fired, beams of bright light shot out and hit every target perfectly. The other Zephyrian cadets cheered as his score appeared on the big screen. 100% accuracy. Not bad for a warm-up, Krixtal said with a smug smile. He looked over at Maya and the other humans. Let us see if the primitives can figure out which end of the rifle to hold. The other Zephyrian cadets laughed. They all stepped up and scored almost as well as Krixtal. Their crystal skin let them connect with the energy weapons in ways that other species could not. They could feel the energy flowing through the rifle and knew exactly where it would go. Next came the Korthak cadets. Vektar grabbed an energy rifle and held it like a toy in his massive hands. He did not have the perfect accuracy of the Zephyrians, but his shots were powerful enough to destroy targets that the others could only damage. When he fired, the sound was like thunder, and the smell of burned metal filled the air. Zephyrians shoot like artists, Vektar growled. Korthak shoot like warriors. Both ways work, but only one way wins wars. His score was 92%, and his fellow lizard aliens roared their approval. The Andromedian cadets were different. They stepped up to the firing line in groups of 3 or 4. Maya watched as they closed their eyes and seemed to communicate, without speaking. When they fired, their shots worked together like they were all controlled by one mind. They could hit targets that no single shooter could reach by having their energy beams combine in the air. Finally, it was time for the human cadets to try. Maya stepped up to the firing line and picked up one of the energy rifles. It was heavier than she had expected, and the metal was cold against her hands. She had practiced with regular firearms back on Earth, but this was completely different. She looked at the moving targets and tried to figure out how the weapon worked. There were no iron sights like on human guns, just a small screen that showed where the rifle was pointing. She took a deep breath and pulled the trigger. The energy beam shot out and missed the target completely, hitting the wall behind it instead. She heard laughter from the alien cadets watching. Maybe the human does not understand how to aim, someone called out. Maya tried again. This time she hit a target, but it was not the one she was aiming for. Her third shot hit the right target, but just barely. By the time she finished, her score was only 61%. It was not terrible, but it was much worse than any of the alien cadets. Lisa did even worse, scoring only 58%. The other human cadets scored between 55 and 68%. None of them came close to matching the aliens. As expected, Krixtal said loudly. Humans cannot handle advanced technology. Perhaps you should go back to throwing rocks at your enemies. The hand-to-hand combat training was even more embarrassing. The Korthak cadets were built for fighting. Their scales were like natural armor, and their claws could cut through metal. Vektar picked up a practice dummy that weighed as much as Maya did and threw it across the room like it was made of paper. Combat is about strength and honor, he announced. You face your enemy directly and prove who is stronger. He punched another practice dummy and left a hole completely through it. Maya tried the same exercise and could barely move the dummy. Her punches did almost no damage, and when she tried to throw it, she nearly fell over from the effort. The watching aliens found this very funny. Even worse was when the cadets had to practice fighting each other. Maya was paired with a small Andromedian cadet who looked like the weakest of his species. But even he was much stronger than her. He moved faster, hit harder, and seemed to know what she was going to do before she did it. The fight lasted about 30 seconds before Maya found herself on the ground with the Andromedian cadet's foot on her chest. I am sorry, the Andromedian said politely. I tried not to hurt you, but humans are so fragile. The tactical planning tests were supposed to be different. This was where humans might have a chance to show they were smart, even if they were not strong. The test put the cadets in charge of a pretend battle and asked them to figure out the best way to win. The Andromedian cadets did very well at this. Their ability to read minds meant they could understand what their enemies were thinking and plan accordingly. They created complex battle plans that took advantage of every weakness their opponents had. The Zephyrian cadets also did well because their brains could process information much faster than other species. They could run through hundreds of different battle scenarios in the time it took others to think of one. The Korthak cadets preferred simple, direct plans. Find enemy, attack enemy, defeat enemy was how Vectar described his tactical philosophy. It was not very creative, but it worked often enough to get good scores. Maya tried to think of clever strategies that would let weaker forces defeat stronger ones. She remembered stories her father had told her about human military history, battles, where smart planning had beaten bigger armies. But when she presented her ideas, the instructors did not seem impressed. Interesting but unrealistic, said Commander Zelnoth, the Zephyrian instructor. Real battles are won by superior firepower and technology, not by tricks. Maya's tactical scores were better than her combat scores, but still not good enough to compete with the aliens. She scored in the 70th percentile, which was respectable but not outstanding. By the end of the second week, the ranking lists were posted for all cadets to see. Krixtal was at the top of the list, followed by other Zephyrian cadets. Vectar and the Korthak cadets held most of the next spots. The Andromedian cadets filled out the middle of the rankings. Maya found her name near the bottom of the list. She was ranked 347 out of 412 cadets. Lisa was ranked even lower. All of the human cadets were in the bottom quarter of their class. The other cadets made sure the humans knew about their poor performance. During meals, Maya could hear them talking about the human problem. I heard that Earth barely qualified to send cadets here, said a Zephyrian cadet at a nearby table. Their technology is hundreds of years behind ours. Their weapons still use chemical explosions instead of energy. Their warriors have no honor, added a Korthak. They fight from long distances instead of facing their enemies face to face. They use tricks and traps instead of honest combat. Perhaps they should return to their primitive planet, suggested an Andromedian. This academy is for species that are ready to serve in a modern military. Maya sat at the human table and listened to all of this. Lisa was getting upset, and some of the other human cadets looked like they wanted to give up and go home. Maybe they are right, Lisa whispered. Maybe we do not belong here. Look at our scores. We are failing at everything. Maya looked around the dining hall at all the confident alien cadets. They were bigger, stronger, smarter, and more advanced than humans in every way that the academy measured. But Maya had noticed something that the aliens had not. Every species was very good at the things they had always been good at. The Zephyrians excelled with energy weapons because their bodies were built for it. The Korthak dominated physical combat because they were naturally strong and aggressive. The Andromedians won at tactical planning because they could read minds. But what happened when they had to do something their species was not naturally good at? Maya had seen Zephyrian cadets panic when their energy weapons malfunctioned. She had watched Korthak cadets struggle with complex problems that could not be solved by hitting something. She had noticed that Andromedian cadets had trouble making quick decisions when they could not consult with their teammates. Each species had great strengths, but they also had weaknesses. They were so used to relying on their natural advantages that they had never learned to adapt when those advantages were not available. Humans were different. Humans had to adapt to everything because they were not naturally the best at anything. The third week at the academy brought new kinds of training that were much harder than anything they had done before. Instead of simple tests, the cadets now had to work together in teams to solve complex problems. These exercises were designed to test how well different species could cooperate and adapt when things did not go according to plan. Maya watched carefully as each group of alien cadets approached these new challenges. She was starting to see patterns in how they thought and acted, patterns that might be important later. The first exercise was a rescue mission simulation. Teams of 4 cadets had to enter a damaged space station, find survivors, and get them out safely. The station was filled with broken machinery, dangerous gas leaks, and failing life support systems. Each team had 1 hour to save as many people as possible. The Zephyrian team went first. They approached the problem like an engineering challenge. using their natural ability to connect with technology. Crixtal interfaced directly with the station's computer systems and quickly found the locations of all the survivors. His team moved efficiently through the safest corridors, avoiding most of the dangers. But when they encountered a problem that could not be solved by technology, they struggled. A collapsed wall blocked their path to a group of survivors, and the Zephyrians did not know what to do. They spent 20 minutes trying to find a technological solution before finally giving up and looking for another route. Crude physical obstacles, Crixtal complained afterward. A properly designed station would not have such problems. The Korthak team approached the same exercise very differently. Vektar led his squad in a direct assault on every obstacle they encountered. When they found the collapsed wall, they simply smashed through it with their claws and strength. They moved fast and saved a lot of people, but they also caused a lot of damage that made things harder for other teams. Their biggest problem came when they encountered a room filled with poisonous gas. The Korthak way was to charge forward and fight through any danger, but this was a problem that could not be solved with strength and courage. 2 of their team members were poisoned and had to be rescued themselves. Honorable warriors do not hide from danger. Vektar growled when the instructors suggested a more careful approach. We face our enemies directly, even if that enemy is gas. The Andromedian team seemed to work perfectly together. They moved like they were all parts of the same person, communicating without words and coordinating their actions flawlessly. They found survivors quickly and rescued them efficiently, working together in ways that amazed the watching instructors. But Maya noticed something interesting. When one Andromedian cadet was separated from the others by a falling piece of machinery, he seemed lost and confused. Without his mental connection to his teammates, he could not decide what to do. He stood in one place for several minutes, waiting for instructions that never came. Individual action is difficult for our species, the separated cadet explained. Later, we are trained to think as one mind, not many separate ones. When it was time for the human team to try the exercise, Maya volunteered to be the team leader. The other human cadets looked nervous, and she could see the alien cadet settling in to watch what they expected to be an embarrassing failure. Maya studied the exercise parameters for several minutes while her teammates waited. She was thinking about everything she had observed from the previous teams. The Zephyrians had the right idea about using technology, but they gave up too easily when it did not work. The Korthak had the right idea about pushing through obstacles, but they did not think about consequences. The Andromedians had the right idea about teamwork, but they could not adapt when their perfect coordination was disrupted. "What are you thinking?" asked Jake Williams, one of her human teammates. "I am thinking about how to use everyone else's good ideas while avoiding their mistakes," Maya replied. She outlined a plan that borrowed tactics from all 3 alien species. They would use technology when it worked, but be ready to switch to physical solutions when it did not. They would work as a team, but each person would also be ready to act alone if necessary. They would be aggressive when speed was needed, but careful when caution was more important. Her human teammates looked skeptical. "That sounds like trying to do everything and being good at nothing," said another cadet named Pete Johnson. "Maybe," Maya admitted. "But maybe being okay at everything is better than being great at one thing and terrible at everything else." The simulation began, and Maya's team entered the damaged space station. They immediately encountered their first challenge, a computer terminal that could show them where the survivors were located, but it was damaged and giving contradictory information. Instead of relying entirely on the technology like the Zephyrians, Maya had her team split up. 2 cadets worked on fixing the computer while the other 2 began searching rooms manually. When the computer started working again, they had already found several survivors on their own. When they encountered the collapsed wall that had stopped the Zephyrian team, Maya did not try to smash through it like the Korthak had. Instead, she had her team look for alternative routes while also trying to clear a path through the debris. They found a ventilation shaft that led around the obstacle, saving time and avoiding damage. When they reached the room with poisonous gas, Maya remembered how the Andromedian cadet had been paralyzed when separated from his team. She made sure all her teammates knew what to do if they got split up. giving each person specific responsibilities and backup plans. They found a way to shut off the gas leak from outside the room, then waited for the air to clear before entering. It took longer than the Korthak approach, but all of her team members stayed healthy and able to help. By the end of the exercise, Maya's team had rescued more survivors than any of the alien teams. They had done it without causing unnecessary damage, without poisoning any team members, and without getting stuck when their first plan did not work. The alien cadets were surprised, but not impressed. Lucky, Krikstal said dismissively. Humans stumbled into success by copying everyone else's ideas. No honor in such tactics, Vektar grumbled. Real warriors create their own strategies. But Maya noticed that some of the instructors were paying more attention to the human performance. Commander Zelnoth was taking notes on a tablet, and Professor Gurthak was watching the replay of their exercise with interest. The next few exercises followed similar patterns. The alien teams excelled when the challenges played to their species' strengths, but struggled when forced to adapt to unexpected situations. The Zephyrians could solve any technological problem, but were helpless when technology failed. The Korthak could overcome any physical obstacle, but could not handle problems that required finesse or patience. The Andromedians could coordinate perfectly but fell apart when their mental connections were disrupted. Maya's human teams continued to perform better than expected by refusing to rely on any single approach. When energy weapons failed, they switched to physical tools. When brute force did not work, they tried clever solutions. When teamwork was disrupted, individual team members kept working toward the mission goals. The alien cadets were starting to get annoyed. They had expected the humans to fail quickly and obviously, proving that Earth species did not belong in the academy. Instead, the humans were consistently finishing in the middle of the rankings, sometimes even beating alien teams that should have been superior. There is something wrong with these exercises, Krikstal complained to his fellow Zephyrians. They are designed to favor primitive thinking over advanced capabilities. The humans are using dishonorable tactics, Vektar told his Korthak squadmates. They do not fight fairly. They change their strategies when they should stick to proven methods. The Andromedians were more thoughtful in their criticism. The humans seem to lack the focus that comes from specialized evolution, one of them observed. They try to do everything instead of perfecting one approach. It should not work, but somehow it does. Maya was beginning to understand something important. Every alien species had spent thousands of years evolving to be the best at one particular thing. The Zephyrians had become perfect at technology. The Korthak had become perfect at physical combat. The Andromedians had become perfect at mental cooperation. But humans had evolved differently. They had to survive on a planet where the environment kept changing. Sometimes they needed to be smart, sometimes strong, sometimes cooperative, sometimes independent. They had become good at adapting to whatever situation they faced, rather than perfecting any single skill. In the simple tests from the first few weeks, this had been a disadvantage. But as the exercises became more complex and unpredictable, human adaptability was becoming an advantage. Maya shared this observation with Lisa and the other human cadets during one of their study sessions. "We are not trying to beat them at their own game," she explained. "We are showing them that there is more than one way to play the game. But they still think we are just getting lucky," Lisa pointed out, "and our overall rankings are still near the bottom." Maya nodded. "That is fine. Let them keep thinking we are lucky. The more they underestimate us, the bigger their surprise will be when we show them what humans can really do." The announcement came during the morning meal on a cold Tuesday. Commander Zelnoth stood at the front of the dining hall, his crystal skin catching the light as he spoke to the hundreds of cadets. "In 2 weeks you will face the final combat evaluation," he said in his musical voice. "This test will determine your final rankings and your assignments after graduation. Unlike previous exercises, this evaluation will pit you directly against each other in individual combat scenarios." The dining hall erupted in excited chatter. The alien cadets immediately began boasting about their expected victories. Krikstal was already telling his Zephyrian friends that the top spot was obviously his. Vektar slammed his fist on his table, so hard that it cracked, roaring about how Korthak warriors would dominate the competition. At the human table, The mood was very different. Maya looked around at her fellow human cadets and saw fear in their eyes. They had been doing better in the team exercises, but individual combat was different. That was where physical strength, natural weapons, and species advantages mattered most. "We are doomed," whispered Pete Johnson. "How are we supposed to fight aliens who are twice our size and have claws and scales?" "Maybe we can ask to be excused from this test," suggested another human cadet. "We could say we are not ready, or that our species is not suited for this kind of competition." Maya felt a flash of anger. "No," she said firmly. "We are not backing down. We came here to prove that humans belong in the galactic military, and that is exactly what we are going to do." Lisa looked at her with concern. "Maya, be realistic. Look at Vectar. He could probably break all of us in half with one hand. And the Zephyrians can move faster than we can even see. How are we supposed to compete with that?" Maya stood up from the table. "By being human," she said. "Come on. We have 2 weeks to prepare, and I have some ideas." For the next 2 weeks, while the alien cadets continued their normal training routines, Maya led the human cadets in a completely different kind of preparation. Instead of trying to get stronger or faster, she focused on studying their opponents. Every evening after regular classes, the human cadets gathered in an empty training room. Maya had managed to get copies of all the combat recordings from previous years, and they watched hour after hour of alien fighting techniques. "Look at this," Maya said, freezing a video of a Korthak cadet in mid-attack. "See how Vectar always swings his claws in the same pattern? Right, left, overhead, right again. It is powerful, but it is predictable." She showed them another video of Zephyrian combat. "Crixtal and his people move incredibly fast, but they always attack in straight lines. They rely on their speed so much that they never learn to change direction quickly. The Andromedian fighting style was different, but equally predictable. They fight like they do everything else as a group mind. Even when fighting alone, they use the same coordinated movements they learned as a team. If you disrupt their rhythm, they have trouble adapting." Jake Williams raised his hand. "Okay, so we know their weaknesses. But knowing and doing something about it are two different things. We are still smaller and weaker than all of them." Maya smiled. "That is where being human becomes an advantage. We have something none of them have." "What is that?" asked Lisa. "Unpredictability," Maya said. "Every alien species has trained for thousands of years to fight in specific ways. Their techniques are perfect for fighting others of their own kind, or enemies who fight in similar patterns. But humans have never had the luxury of fighting only one type of enemy." She pulled up videos of human military history from Earth. "Look at these battles. Humans have fought in deserts, jungles, mountains, space, underwater, in zero gravity, in extreme cold, in burning heat. We have used swords, guns, explosives, vehicles, our bare hands, and anything else we could find. We have fought enemies who were bigger, stronger, faster, and better armed than us." The other human cadets watched in fascination as Maya showed them footage of human soldiers adapting to impossible situations. Guerrilla fighters defeating larger armies. Special forces teams completing missions that should have been impossible. Ordinary people becoming heroes when they had no other choice. The difference is that when other species encounter a problem, they try to solve it the way their people have always solved problems, Maya explained. When humans encounter a problem, we make up a new solution on the spot. Over the next week, Maya trained her fellow humans in something no alien cadet would ever think to learn: how to fight dirty. Not dishonorably, but unpredictably. How to use the environment as a weapon. How to turn an opponent's strength against them. How to make split-second decisions when plans fell apart. They practiced fighting with broken equipment, in the dark, with injuries, and against multiple opponents. They learned to use their size as an advantage rather than a disadvantage, moving in ways that larger opponents could not follow. Most importantly, Maya taught them to think like humans, instead of trying to think like aliens. "Stop trying to be honorable like the Korthak," she said. "Stop trying to be perfect like the Zephyrians. Stop trying to be coordinated like the Andromedians. Be creative, be adaptable, be human." The alien cadets watched this unusual training with amusement. Krixtal often brought his friends to observe the humans practicing. "Look at them rolling around in the dirt," he would say with a crystal laugh. "Do they think they are animals? This is not combat training, it is just embarrassing." Vectar was even more dismissive. "Humans have no understanding of proper warfare," he told anyone who would listen. "They practice cowardly techniques instead of learning to fight with honor. When the evaluation comes, I will show them what real combat looks like." Even some of the instructors seemed concerned about the human training methods. Professor Gerthak pulled Maya aside after one session. "Cadet Rodriguez, I understand that humans must work harder to compete with other species, but these techniques you are practicing are highly unconventional. Are you certain this approach will be effective?" Maya looked up at the large Korthak instructor. "Sir, with respect, conventional techniques are why humans are ranked at the bottom of the class. If we fight the way everyone expects us to fight, we will lose the way everyone expects us to lose." Professor Gerthak grunted, which was about as close to approval as anyone ever got from him. "Very well. But remember that the evaluation will be conducted under Academy rules. There are limits to what tactics are acceptable." "Understood, sir," Maya replied. "We will fight within the rules. We just will not fight the way anyone expects us to." As the evaluation date approached, the atmosphere in the academy became tense. The alien cadets were confident but also nervous. This test would determine everything they had worked for. Rankings would be final, and the top cadets would get the best assignments in the Galactic Fleet. The night before the evaluation, Maya could not sleep. She lay in her bunk thinking about everything that had led to this moment. All the mockery, all the dismissal, all the time she had been told that humans did not belong here. Tomorrow she would have the chance to prove them all wrong. Lisa was awake too. "Are you scared?" she whispered in the darkness. "Terrified," Maya admitted. "But also excited. We have been underestimated from the moment we arrived here. Tomorrow we get to show them what a mistake that was." "What if we lose?" Lisa asked. Maya thought about that for a moment. "Then we lose fighting like humans. And that is better than winning by pretending to be something we are not." The next morning came too soon. All the cadets gathered in the main combat arena, a huge circular room with seating for thousands of spectators. The alien cadets looked confident and ready. They had trained their entire lives for moments like this. Maya looked around at her fellow human cadets. They looked nervous but determined. They had trained for 2 weeks using techniques that no one else understood. They were about to find out if being human was enough. Commander Zelnoth called for attention. "The final combat evaluation will begin in 1 hour. Cadets will compete in individual scenarios designed to test combat effectiveness under pressure. The scenarios will be randomized and unpredictable. Your performance will determine your final academy ranking." He paused and looked around the arena. "Remember that you represent not only yourselves but your entire species. Fight with honor, courage, and skill." Maya felt her heart beating fast as she prepared for the most important test of her life. Around her, alien cadets were making final preparations, checking their equipment and practicing their techniques one last time. She closed her eyes and thought about her father's words when she left Earth. "Show them what humans are made of." Today she would do exactly that. Win or lose, the galaxy was about to learn that humans were not to be underestimated. The evaluation was about to begin, and Maya Rodriguez was ready to prove that being human was not a weakness. It was the greatest strength of all. The combat arena filled with tension as the first evaluations began. Maya watched from the waiting area as alien cadets entered the testing chamber one by one. Each cadet faced a series of increasingly difficult combat scenarios designed to push them to their absolute limits. Krixtal went first among the top competitors. His crystal skin glowed as he entered the chamber, confidence radiating from every movement. The first scenario placed him in a damaged spaceship corridor fighting automated defense drones. His energy weapon interface abilities let him disable the drones quickly and efficiently. The watching cadets cheered as his score appeared. 94 points. Vectar followed with a display of raw power that left the audience amazed. His scenario involved fighting through a base filled with enemy soldiers. He smashed through walls, crushed opponents with his bare hands, and roared his victory as he completed each objective. His final score was 91 points, and his fellow Korthak cadets stamped their feet in approval. The Andromedian champion, a graceful cadet named Andra, approached her test with calm precision. Her scenario required protecting civilians while fighting multiple enemies. She moved like a dancer, seeming to know where every attack was coming from before it happened. Her telepathic abilities let her coordinate perfectly with the simulated civilians, and she scored 89 points. One by one, the alien cadets completed their evaluations. Most scored between 70 and 90 points. The few who scored lower were clearly disappointed, knowing their poor performance would affect their future assignments. Finally, it was time for the human cadets to be tested. The alien spectators settled back in their seats, expecting to see quick defeats and low scores. Many were already talking about other things, assuming the human portion of the evaluation would be boring. Jake Williams went first among the humans. Maya watched nervously as he entered the combat chamber. His scenario was similar to the one Vector had faced, but Jake approached it completely differently. Instead of smashing through obstacles, he found ways around them. Instead of fighting every enemy directly, he used the environment to his advantage. When enemy soldiers expected him to attack from the front, Jake appeared from behind. When they set up defensive positions, he found ways to collapse the ceiling on them. When they tried to corner him, he had already escaped through a route they never considered. His fighting style looked chaotic and random compared to the smooth, practiced techniques of the alien cadets. But it worked. He completed his scenario with a score of 78 points, much higher than anyone had expected from a human. The alien spectators stirred with surprise. Lucky, Krixtal muttered, but he sounded less certain than before. Lisa went next and scored 76 points using similar unpredictable tactics. Then Pete Johnson scored 81 points by doing things that no alien cadet had even tried. Instead of fighting the combat drones in his scenario head-on, he reprogrammed them to fight each other. The alien cadets were no longer ignoring the human performances. They were watching carefully, trying to understand how humans were achieving scores that should have been impossible for such a weak species. They are cheating somehow, Vector growled. No honorable warrior fights like that. It is not cheating if it works, Professor Gerthak replied quietly. The Korthak instructor was studying the human techniques with great interest. Finally, Maya's name was called. She stood up and walked toward the combat chamber, feeling the eyes of hundreds of alien cadets watching her. She could hear whispers and comments as she passed. "This is the one who thinks she can lead," someone said. "Watch her fail worse than the others," added another voice. Maya ignored them all. She had been preparing for this moment since the day she arrived at the academy. All the mockery, all the dismissal, all the times she had been told humans did not belong here had led to this single test. She entered the combat chamber and looked around. The room could change into any environment and create any type of enemy. She wondered what scenario the computer would choose for her. The chamber transformed into a complex multi-level space station with failing life support, hostile automated defenses, and scattered civilian casualties. Maya realized immediately that this was not just one scenario, but a combination of several different challenges that had been given to other cadets. The computer was testing her with the hardest possible combination. Most cadets would have chosen a single approach and stuck with it. Attack the defenses directly like a Korthak, interface with the technology like a Zephyrian, coordinate with the civilians like an Andromedian. Maya did something different. She adapted. When automated turrets blocked her path, she did not try to destroy them with superior firepower like Krixtal would have. Instead, she used pieces of debris as mobile shields and closed distance in unpredictable patterns that confused their targeting systems. When she encountered a group of enemy soldiers, she did not charge them directly like Vector would have. She used the station's failing artificial gravity to her advantage, fighting in 3 dimensions and striking from angles that ground-based fighters could not anticipate. When she needed to coordinate with civilians, she did not rely on telepathic connections like Silandra would have. She used simple hand signals, environmental cues, and basic psychology to get people to safety while keeping them calm. But Maya's real advantage was not in countering specific alien techniques. It was in doing things that none of them would ever think to try. She combined tactics from different scenarios in ways that the computer had not been programmed to expect. She used emergency equipment in creative ways, turning fire suppression systems into weapons and medical scanners into detection devices. She created traps using the station's own failing systems, channeling electrical surges and pressure leaks to eliminate enemies without direct confrontation. Most importantly, when her initial plans did not work perfectly, she changed them instantly. When enemies adapted to her tactics, she immediately developed new ones. When equipment failed, she found alternatives. When situations changed, she changed with them. The watching cadets had fallen completely silent. What they were seeing did not match anything they understood about combat. Maya was not fighting like a warrior from any recognized tradition. She was fighting like a human, and it was devastatingly effective. 20 minutes into her scenario, Maya had rescued more civilians, eliminated more enemies, and secured more objectives than any cadet in Academy history. She moved through the station like water, flowing around obstacles and finding solutions that no one else had even considered. When the scenario finally ended, the combat chamber fell silent. Maya stood in the center of the room, breathing hard but victorious. She had completed challenges that were designed to be impossible for any single cadet to handle. Then the score appeared on the display screen, and the entire arena erupted in shocked disbelief. Maya Rodriguez, 947 points. It was not just the highest score of the day. It was the highest score in the Academy's history, nearly 100 points higher than any cadet had ever achieved. The alien spectators sat in stunned silence. Krixtal's crystal features showed something that might have been fear. Vektar's jaw hung open, showing all his sharp teeth. Even the normally composed Andromedian cadets looked shaken. Commander Zelnoth stood slowly from his observation platform. His voice carried clearly through the arena's communication system. Cadet Maya Rodriguez has achieved the highest combat evaluation score in this Academy's 300-year history. Her tactical innovations and adaptive strategies have exceeded all known parameters. The silence stretched for several long seconds. Then Professor Gurthak began a slow, rhythmic clapping that was gradually taken up by other instructors. Some of the alien cadets joined in, though many still looked too shocked to respond. Maya walked out of the combat chamber to find Lisa and the other human cadets waiting for her with huge smiles. They had done it. They had proven that humans belonged here, not as junior partners but as equals who brought their own unique strengths to the galactic community. Over the following days, the final Academy rankings were posted. Maya Rodriguez was at the very top of the list, earning assignment to the most prestigious command track in the galactic fleet. But more importantly, her success had opened doors for every human who would follow. The alien cadets who had mocked humans found themselves requesting transfers to serve under human officers, suddenly eager to learn the adaptive techniques that Maya had demonstrated. The Academy's curriculum was revised to include human military history and tactical flexibility training. Krixtal approached Maya on graduation day, his crystal skin reflecting the light differently than before. "I owe you an apology," he said, formally. "I underestimated your species. I would be honored to serve alongside humans in the fleet." Vektar was more direct in his admission. "Human warriors fight with cleverness, not just honor," he admitted. "This is also a form of strength. I was wrong to dismiss it." Even the diplomatic Andromedians acknowledged their error. "We believed that specialized evolution was superior to adaptive capability," Silandra told Maya. "You have shown us that diversity of approach can be more powerful than perfection of technique."